All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our, February Blueprint Bootcamp on creating digital content. I am the communications director for the Massachusetts Democratic Party. I'm so happy to be here. I have been a participant on many Blueprint trainings so far, but this is the first one that I'm leading, and I'm very, very excited to be with you today. For anybody that just jumped on, go ahead and put your name, where you're from, your town committee, Blueprint team in the chat, so we can all learn a little bit about each other. I'm going to be here giving you this training. We've also got our subcommittee chair, disability outreach subcommittee chair, Cheryl Cummings here. She's going to talk a little bit about accessibility when it comes to online content, but we'll get there, a little bit later in the training. So before we, officially get things started, like I said, I'm the communications director for the party. I handle anything that has to do with online content. I handle anything that's visual for the party. So you might know me from creating all the graphics online, from your convention credentials, from your call convention, all that fun stuff. So I definitely am, kind of know what I'm talking about, and I'm excited to kind of share that knowledge with you today. So I'm going to pull up my slides. All right. So first, we're going to get talking about, why digital content is important, why you should be including pictures, videos, graphics, anything like that on your social media posts. And this is when Cheryl will chip in with about a little piece about accessibility. We're going to talk about taking good photos and videos, because that is the base for creating good graphics and good videos, is having good things to work off of. We're also going to talk about what makes a good graphic. We'll talk a little bit about size. We'll talk about design best practices. And then finally, we'll talk about how we all make good graphics. And I'll go over, how to use Canva, how to use our templates to create graphics like that. And then I'll finish up with how do we post these, and what does that look like as far as adding alt text and image descriptions and stuff like that. So first, we're going to talk about why digital content is important. It's important for a lot of reasons. So I want to take a quick poll, and you can raise your hand. You can, throw up a different emoji reaction. You can put something in the chat. But I would love to know how many folks here are on Facebook. And I'm scrolling through now to see how many folks we have on Facebook. I see a hand. I see a couple of hands. I see people raising their hands. Lots of folks on Facebook. If you are on Twitter, I'd love you to keep that hand up. Keep putting that emoji up. I see more emojis. And who's on, Snapchat, TikTok, who's on like all of those things that all the kids are on, and that I, even struggle to use sometimes. And I see more and more things. I see a little bit less for the Snapchat and TikTok crowd. So maybe we've got some work to do there. But everybody, as you can see, is on social media in some way. And so when you're thinking about what posts you click on, what posts you share, the posts that you engage with, more often than not, it's going to be a post that has some kind of media, whether that's images, whether that's video, GIFs, motion graphics, anything like that. That's all media. Than images do. And it's really important. I mean, that happens for a variety of different, one of them is that visual content makes that tweet, that, whatever it is, a little bit bigger. So it takes up more of your screen. And that's really an important thing to take into consideration when we're all scrolling on mobile. And it's really eye-catching. We see different colors than we're used to. We don't see the white background of Twitter or the gray background of Facebook or anything like that. We're also about 65% more likely to remember information if it includes an image. And we're Democrats, we're all activists. We want folks to remember the voting information that we're sharing. We want folks to remember, the messages that our Democratic candidates are putting out there. So it's really important to include digital content with anything that you're posting online. But not all kinds of content are created equal. What type of content performs the best depends on your platform and your audience. So we know that platforms like Instagram are very image centric, but then you've got platforms like Twitter where you can have text-based posts. So what you put out there is going to depend on the platform itself, depends on who your followers are, but varying your content is going to keep people engaged. So that means posting pictures, videos, graphics. If you can throw a GIF in there, that's great too. But today we're going to focus on those big three: photos, videos, and graphics. But before we move on to that, I'm so happy to introduce Cheryl Cummings. Like I mentioned, she's the chair, one of the co-chairs of our Disability Outreach Subcommittee at the State Committee. And I'm going to throw it over to her, and she's going to talk a little bit about accessibility. So Cheryl, you have the floor.
All right. Thank you so much, Allison. I was so excited when you invited me to come and talk with everyone this evening. So hello, everyone. Like you, I'm a Democrat. I'm on the state committee, and I'm a co-chair of the Disability Outreach Committee. Maybe unlike many of you, I am someone who is blind. And so I'm part of this community that we talk about when we talk about people with disabilities. And why should you care about us? You should care because the statistics say that about 20% of the population is made up of people with disabilities. You should care because as people age, there's as life changes, we may find ourselves acquiring a disability. So disability is, I'd say, something that can happen to anyone at any time. And so as we talk about trying to get information across to everyone in our communities, we really need to think about the fact that there are people out there who do not access social media the same way as you may assume that they do. I'll speak for myself. In order to access social media, use my computer at all, I have what's called a screen reader. And this is a software that basically verbalizes everything that is in print so that I can use that to know what's on the screen. So that means I can go to Twitter, I have a Twitter account, I can go to Facebook, I don't use TikTok, but I know of people who do. And I don't use Instagram, but I know of people who do, and Snapchat. So that's saying that every sort of social media platform that you use, those platforms are also being used by people with disabilities. And if we're 20% of the population, we're not a group that as Democrats we want to exclude from hearing about different messages. So I'm going to stop there and say, Allison, did you have some specific questions for me?
Yeah, so during this training, we'll talk a little bit about alt text and image descriptions and how we can use those to make sure that the information conveyed in our graphics is able to be consumed by folks that either use screen readers or maybe lack a stable internet connection. So I would love to know, what do you find is better in your experience? Alt text, image descriptions, or should you have both?
Oh, well, I'm greedy, so I'm going to say you should have both. And let me revise that a little. I think depending to some extent on the platform that you're using, there are instances where it might make sense to use one over the other. The alt text, absolutely, if you're doing websites, I think on Twitter, Facebook, an image description, I think, is more of a long form sort of describer or description of an image. So I would think, again, if you're on maybe Facebook or if you're on a website, you might want to use that. But the sort of more standard one that is really used is the alt text.
And so you talked a little bit about, how different social media platforms like you interact with them differently. Are there certain social media platforms that are easier for you to use that we should be prioritizing when we're putting out content? Facebook, Twitter, should we be using all of them because they all have different benefits and drawbacks?
Yeah. So again, I think we need to use them all, and we need to understand what sort of access works best in each platform. So I know, like for Twitter, the alt text is fantastic, and again, the camel case, right, which is when you type something and you capitalize the first letter, so makes life so much easier for me when I'm going through something on Twitter. Similarly with Facebook, it's the alt text again. I know Facebook has like something, it says, oh, it's built in, we do it automatically. And what that really says is, like, if you put up a picture and and you don't do an alt text, Facebook does tell me something. It says something like this: picture of man, or picture, or actually it says, it looks like it can be a picture of a tree. And well, that's not too reliable and not too interesting. Whereas if you actually did an alt text, you could describe it a little bit. You could say picture of, let's see, picture of the vice president at the White House, right? That is more informative rather than a possible image of a woman standing in front of a building.
Yeah.
So.
And you mentioned camel case. So camel case for anybody that doesn't know is when you see a hashtag, like for some of ours, we use Mass Dems Caucus. We capitalize Mass, Dems, and Caucus, so that way those words are all separated out, and it's easier for folks to who use screen readers to understand what that hashtag says. Are there any other things that we should be keeping in mind when we're posting online, Cheryl? I'm thinking, emoji usage, sorry. Or, if we're posting like some kinds of images or, does that make sense? Any other things that we should take into consideration?
Oh, yes, your emojis. I know people love emojis, but please, please, please be considerate. I mean, I truly skipped Twitter things that it's just like, clapping hands, happy face, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what are they trying to say? I can only listen to that for so long. So I'd say be sparing of emojis, and maybe it's just a general best practice. I mean, use them when you're trying to really communicate something. So that's one thing. And I suppose the one thing I would really want everybody to remember is that don't assume that somebody with a disability is not accessing whatever it is you've put out. If anything, assume that there probably is somebody. So if you're putting out a video and that you should have like a transcript of it, or there's an option to do captioning, then please do that. Less popular has been audio description for folks who are blind, but that's another sort of thing to consider when you're working on videos. And I know Allison's going to give you more details on sort of the specifics around color contrast and the use of images, because as I said, I'm somebody who's totally blind, but there are lots of folks with all different types of disabilities who will access whatever information you put out.
All right. Thank you so much, Cheryl. This is very informative, I'm sure, for everybody here, but also for me. So if anybody has any questions for Cheryl, don't hesitate to get in touch with me. I'll pass them along, but we want to let Cheryl have the rest of her night back. So thank you so much for hopping on. We really appreciate it, Cheryl.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. And I'm sure everybody is going to learn a lot this evening, and I look forward to visiting all these different websites and everything's your Twitter feeds, etc., and being really able to read everything and to get all the information that you're trying to communicate. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful training.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So like Cheryl mentioned, we will go through adding alt text and image descriptions to your images that you're posting online. We'll also touch on adding captions to videos. I'll show you how you can use Facebook to actually caption a lot more than just Facebook videos. And then I put in the chat, we have a short guide on adding alt text and image descriptions to your content. And this slide deck will be sent around after the training, so you'll have access to this as well. So we are going to talk a little bit now about taking good photos and videos, because that's the absolute, base level of creating good content. So smartphones, awesome. They're some of the best cameras out there that we've ever had access to as regular folks, not photographers, not videographers. So use that to your advantage. So the only thing that I would advise is to pay close attention to what's in the frame. You want to make sure your event looks well attended. You want to make sure that everybody at your event is well represented. And then you also want to, in these trying times, make sure that folks are following any COVID safety protocols that might exist in your municipality or at the event venue where you're holding your events. So we are going to address right here, right now, of an age-old question: horizontal or vertical? Do you want to take photos and videos, with your phone the horizontal hamburger way, or do you want to turn it on its side, or right side up, I guess, and take it up and down? Generally, as a rule, my rule is if you're taking photos and videos for in-feed content, you're going to take it horizontally most of the time. There are exceptions for, TikTok, obviously, or some Instagram posts, but horizontally generally gives you more opportunities to kind of play with that content, incorporate it into graphics later, and stuff like that. Photos and videos you plan to post on Instagram or Facebook stories, and we'll talk a little bit about this later, should be up and down vertical. So we have a little bit of a crash course on my best practices for taking photos at your events. A lot of folks have portrait mode on their cameras, so that's going to give you that kind of blurry background or foreground, low aperture look that we kind of consider to look more high quality than something with a higher, aperture, have a larger depth of field. So definitely use that if you want to make your photos look a little bit more professional. My absolute favorite pro tip for taking good photos is an over the shoulder shot, and you can kind of see one here. It makes that room look full without, having to take a huge wide shot and show these little dead spaces that you might have in the room, especially during COVID. So an over the shoulder shot makes you feel like you're in the action, but you could have an empty room behind you and you're not going to see that. Next, virtual events mean screenshots. So it's Control Shift Command 3 on my computer, and I think on most computers. So take those screenshots of those virtual events. It's just as good as a photo. Then you want to take plenty of candid photos, and candid is in quotes because a lot of candid photos aren't candid photos. They're very staged. Don't hesitate to, put somebody in the right position and be like, hey, can you stand there? Hey, can you do this? And grab that perfect photo. And then always get a group picture. You're going to regret it later if you don't do it. So any event that you have, any initiative that you put together, make sure you get that group picture at the end. So you can say thank you to all the volunteers that participated too. So now we get to the main part of the training. We're going to talk about graphics. I love doing graphics. I think I said in an email that saying it's my passion might be an exaggeration, but I love doing graphics. They're super fun. You have a lot of options. So you can use graphics to advertise your events or share information. And here at the DEMS, we make a lot of our graphics available for you to download, and we have a lot of templates for you to create your own as well. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about different sizes. You've got square, horizontal, two kinds of vertical. A lot of platforms in the past few months even have updated, their their platforms to accommodate all kinds of different sizes. So where Twitter and Facebook used to really thrive on this horizontal graphic that you see, the 1600 by 900 pixel, that is really falling out of vogue now on Twitter. I'm noticing most people are going for this 4:5 or 4:5 ratio 1200 by 1500 pixel graphic. Oops, sorry. Because it takes up more space on the screen. Folks are more likely to engage with it than they are than the horizontal graphic. Square is still a very popular option for all platforms. And then this vertical, this very long vertical, is mostly what you'll see for Instagram, Facebook stories, TikTok, things like that. So whatever size you choose, just make sure you take into consideration what platform you're posting on, and kind of what you hope to achieve with that graphic. So the vertical graphic, yeah, maybe you're not posting it in a story, but maybe you're putting together an infographic. So that's a really good option for that. Square is always a good option for videos most of the time. So just take into consideration those few things when you're choosing your size. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about fonts. Fonts should be easy to read, and they should make sense for the mood of your graphic. So let's take a look at this first font right at the top, this kind of curly cursive one. That's pretty hard to read, and so that might not be a great font to choose for small text on your graphic. And then you see the second one down, it's kind of got this spooky, scary drip effect. That might be a great font to choose for Halloween, but that might not be a great font to choose for Mother's Day. So you really need to think about what the purpose of your graphic is, and are you achieving that goal with your font? So we've got two types of fonts, serif fonts and sans serif fonts. Serif fonts are fonts that have kind of these little, like lines that come off of the main word, if that makes sense. So like this third one down, that's a serif font. Things like Times New Roman. Sans serif fonts don't have that. So that's like the fourth one, the last font that we have on this slide. And generally, you want to stay away from serif fonts for small text. It is hard for, all folks to read, but it becomes particularly difficult for, folks with dyslexia to read very small serif fonts. So stick to serif fonts for big text, sans serif fonts for small text. And then as a general rule, try to limit your graphics to only 2 fonts at a time. Anything more than that can get a little unruly. And I see some stuff in the chat. I see a couple of hands raised. I'm going to come back around to any questions at the end of the training. So, write them down, put them in your phone, but we will come back to you. Like I was saying, Canva has a ton of resources for pairing colors and fonts. Color contrast, like Cheryl kind of mentioned earlier, is pretty important. You have folks who have color blindness, or folks that just might not be able to see very well for any reason. And you want to make sure that they're able to read the text on your images, and that they're able to make out generally what is happening in the image, even if the colors might not be exactly correct for them. So this great website, color-blindness.com, has a thing you can upload your graphic, your image, and check it just to make sure everything looks good. Another thing that I want to talk about is including dates, times, links, and the name of your organization. It's saying my internet connection is unstable, so I hope everyone can still hear me, and that I'm not cutting out. Let me know if I am.
I can hear you. Fine.
But you want to make. Sorry,
I was just saying you're good.
Okay. So you want to include all of that important information on your graphics, because in my experience, folks love to take graphics for their own newsletters, their own social media pages, which is great because you want to pass that information along. But you always want to make sure folks know where it comes from and that they have all the materials they need to take action when it comes time to do that. Bitly is really good for shortening links if that's something you're worried about. Then you've got negative space. So negative space is you need places for your eyes to rest on a graphic. You don't want to feel like there's text everywhere, images everywhere. You want to feel like your eyes, they know what's important when they look at that graphic. So negative space is your friend. Don't feel the need to, pack every single area of that graphic with content. So I have some things to show you that I have done over the years. So we've got a couple of different kinds of graphics for our Plan to Vote rally that we had in 2020. You can see an example of a very long vertical graphic, a horizontal one and a square one. You can see how we've utilized the space very differently in each of these, and that we have all of these graphics so that way we could optimize, for every platform and make sure that the content, the information that we wanted to get out there was communicated in the best way possible. And so actually right now I am going to pause for questions. So is Bitly a free tool? Yes, Bitly is a free tool. You can pay for it. It has a couple of different options that you typically don't have, but the general converting links to short links is a free tool. And I see Annette has her hand raised. Annette? No? Okay. So if Annette is not with us, we will move on. So here are a couple of other graphics that we did for our convention. You can see, again, all of the information that folks needed to watch the convention is on the graphic. You've got the link to watch, the date, the time, everything is there. So that way when folks took these to put in their newsletters and, for their own social media pages, it all stayed there. And you've got another one of those long graphics for Instagram stories and fun stuff like that. And these are really simple graphics that I like to show. These are from our last convention. They talk about hosting platform meetings and submitting testimony. And as you can see, it doesn't take a lot to make a good looking graphic. This is just a gradient background and some text. Nothing more than that. But if you know how to utilize the space, well, you can make a good looking graphic. So anyone can do it. So now I am very excited to start designing. So I'm going to stop my screen share for a second. If anybody has any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat now. I'll try to answer them before we move on to the design portion of the training. I'm going to pull up some of our templates. All right. Don't see any more questions. So we have a lot of different templates. We have templates for Blueprint. We have templates for caucuses. If we have any other kinds of events, we often throw stuff up there. So I'm gonna, since this is a Blueprint Bootcamp, I'm gonna use our Blueprint template. So this is, our Blueprint microsite. This is where you go to get all your stuff. If you go to resources for teams, I'll actually take you to this page and you can click on graphic templates and they all pop up. So today I am going to do a template for Instagram. And if you click on that, it will pop up like this. And all you have to do is click use template. If you have a Canva account and you're logged in, it'll open up a copy of the template right there. If you don't, you'll just be prompted to sign in through Google or Facebook or make your own account, and then you'll be able to open the template and start editing it. But as you can see, everything is ready to go for you. It's the Blueprint branding, everything is done. You just have to fill in your information. So Norma, can screen readers read the links and text in those graphics, or do you add these to go with graphics? Screen readers cannot read the links and text in the graphics. That's why when you're writing your copy, it's always good to include the name of the event, the date, and the time in the copy itself, as well as the link to join. You can also add all of these things in the alt text or in the image description, so that way they're still, able to be understood by folks that use screen readers. So where do we find these templates? So this one is on the MassDems website. If you go to massdems.org/blueprint and go to resources, you'll be able to click on graphic templates right here. Our caucus templates are in our preliminary call. If you have that, if you're a chair, you can also find that at massdems.org/caucus. And I am happy to send those out after. If you give me 1 second, have them both right here. So they're both there. If you would like to open one and you can design along with me, that would be really fun. Let's see. I am from Somerset originally, so I'm going to pretend like I'm a Somerset Blueprint team and I am making a graphic for my event. So event name, let's say we're hosting a food drive. All you do is click in the box and you can say, let's see, Somerset Democrats food drive. Okay, but that, that's obviously not going to work, right? And then if you can click it, you can bring it up, still is not working, right? So up here, you can, decrease the text size to whatever you want. That's a little bit too small. You can even do something like that. And this, in theory, that fits, right? But I'm gonna give you one better. What you can do is, we'll get rid of food drive, throw Somerset Democrats up there, make it go so it's all on one line. And then if you, make a copy of this, right click, copy and paste, you can bring it below. Food drive, type in food drive, increase the size, and see that looks a lot better, doesn't it? And what information is important because it's bigger. Food drive, that's the event. That's what we want to promote. Somerset Democrats, not that the Somerset Democrats aren't important because they have a very near and dear place in my heart. But we want to focus on the event itself. So then we have date, time, and location. Let's see, the date is March 16th, we'll say. The time is, say, 6 p.m. and we'll say the location is this Somerset Library, where a lot of events are held. All you do is click and type it in. It's very easy. You can put bit.ly/ let's say SDTC drive, and then you just want to line it up. See how all of these guides come up, so that way you can make sure everything is even. Make sure the spacing makes sense. And that's it. Very, very simple to use. And then to download, you just hit download here. I suggest downloading as a PNG, and then you hit download. And then it downloads it. It's pretty easy. And there's a lot of other things that you can add too. So if this, is not getting the information that you want to get across, if you need to add another text box, you've got all of these things on the sides. Elements will bring up some shapes, it'll bring up some stickers, and I'll show you how you can create your own graphic in just a second with some of these. You have uploads, so if you wanted to add a picture or something like that, you can add that in there. Text, if I needed to add another thing of text, I just made a copy so that way I could easily carry over the font and things like that. But if you want to add some more text, you can add that like that. You also have all of these different options for, text combinations. So you don't even have to, do that yourself. Let's see. We've got some actions, some questions in the chat. So how you get the template into Canva. So once you click, so we've got this guide here. Once you click one of our templates, so if I click the Facebook template, you click that link, it'll show you this, and then you click use template and it brings it into Canva if you have an account. What I can actually do is here, I will exit out of this and I'll sign out. So then you can see what that looks like. So if I open it, still brings you to this page, click use template, and then you're just prompted to sign in. So, and then I can sign in with, any account. Or you can create an account through Canva. I just usually sign in through Google. I find it's a little bit easier. And yes, like Steve says, you can find lots of tutorials on Canva, in Canva itself, or on YouTube. And the font seems harder. Let's see, seems harder to read, and you combine 3 fonts. So actually, I'm not combining more than 3 fonts. Let's see. Let me open. This is the one I was working on. I'm going to get rid of that. This is the same font. It's still Open Sans Extra, extra bold. So is that one. And then this is the only one that's permanent marker. This is a little bit bigger text, so I'm not worried about folks' legibility for this one. If this one was this big, then I would say maybe change this one to be, that a little bit more readable font. But I think since it's big, we are good. All right, any other questions before I move on using the template? It's pretty simple. And if you have any questions, I am happy to answer them offline as well. All right, so I'm going to go back to the home screen. So if you just logged into Canva, this is what it would look like. And let's say our events are really just not cutting it for you, or not our events, our templates are just not cutting it for you. You need to create your own. That's fine. That's great. And so the way that you would do that is you go up the top on the right-hand side to create a design. And we talked about all those size options before. You can, Instagram is 1080 by 1080 pixels. So you can choose that one. Facebook posts, they're all different. You can choose whatever you want, or you can do your own size. So let's create another Instagram post. And it will open up a completely blank canvas for you to work off of. If you click the canvas, you can easily change the background. We're Democrats, we love blue, so let's choose that one. And let's see, we'll keep going. We'll still say I'm Somerset Democrats. And let's say we're hosting a candidates night. That's an event that lots of folks will probably hold over the next few months. So if you, like I said, you've got all these options here. You've got a bunch of other templates that Canva provides, and you're welcome to choose from any of those. It's a great option. You just change the colors, change the font, change the text. But if we go to elements, you can your recently used stuff up here, lines and shapes. So all kinds of things for you to choose from. You've got graphics, and it has a bunch of different, more sticker-like options. So actually, this is one that I was using before. You've got it says American Vote Donkey. So I'm going to go with that. And then you just kind of place it wherever you want it to go. If a lot of graphics, a lot of images, you're able to click on and change some of the colors. So I can change him to look like that, or like that. You can also play with the transparency of objects. So this is white right now. If I wanted it to, be a little bit less noticeable, fade into the background, if you go into this upper corner here, you can decrease the transparency. So I'm actually going to do that. And then you can go to text. And like I said, you have all of these options here for, combinations that you can choose. You can also just click add a heading. And let's see. We'll do a candidate site, or let's do a candidate series so I can show you how to do a photo. And then you can open, up the top, you have all the text options that you'd not normally have in a Word doc or a Google Doc. I'm sure many of us are familiar with those. It's very, and you can see all of these options come up on the side, and it has your recently used. And if anybody is seeing these little crown symbols, that's just saying that those are premium. We're using the free version of Canva right now. So we don't have access to those, but there are plenty more for us. So I am going to choose, one of these. All right, now it's working. So I'm going to pick that one, but let's say I want things to be, I'm a fan of making all of the letters capital, because then you don't have to worry about, if so-and-so capitalizes certain letters in their name, or you don't have to worry about some typos that way. So what you can do is click on this, this right here where it says uppercase, and it's the lowercase a and the uppercase a, and you can automatically switch what it says or what case the letters are. And then you just keep going, adding more and more stuff. So like I said, you want to include the name. So I'll say Somerset Democrats. I'm going to switch this. I like to pair really wide fonts with condensed fonts. I think that creates a good balance in the image. So let's make this a little bit bigger. All right, so now we're working. Now we need to add the date and the time. Like I said, you always want to include stuff like that just in case somebody takes your graphic for, their newsletter or their social media post or something like that. So let's say that. And see, that's a little bit hard to read. So I am going to make it bold. It's a little bit easier, make it a little bit bigger. All right. So now let's look at some of the frames and some more of the stickers we have. So Canva has this really great thing called frames. And if you go to elements and then you search for frames, it'll bring them all right up. And what you can do is select any of these. So let's see, I'm going to choose this one. Oop, drag and drop it into the image. See, it made the frame the same color as the donkey. I don't want that. I'm going to change it back to white. And then I have my headshot. This is me loaded in here. And you can just drag and drop it into the frame and it automatically puts it in like that. And it's a lot easier than, doing all of this in Photoshop or trying to crop it that way. So I would highly recommend using Canva for this purpose, if for nothing else. And then let's see, let's say I'm running for something. I can add another text box saying that, I'm going to be at this candidate series. I'm running for school board. Make it a little bit smaller, make it the same text. So we're sticking to our rule. Make it bold. Pretty easy. I'm actually going to make it, not all of it bold, and I'm just going to bold my name, so that way you know what's important when you're looking at the graphic. And then you can play with this, change the sizes, figure out what looks best. It's really just about figuring out what you want to achieve with your graphic and then working with it to figure out what looks the best. And then, so there's one thing that we're missing on this that I mentioned, and that's the link to join or the location. So if it was a link, I would put it in this bottom corner here. But if it's a location, I like to put that with the text. Say it's at the library again. And that is how you make your own graphic in Canva. Canva has tons of options for, changing things up. What I can do is, if I want to edit the image, there are a bunch of options here for editing it. You can add shadows. I'm not sure if this will do it since it's in a frame, but we'll see. Yeah, that one's not working. But usually you can do that. So you can do that with this. You can create a shadow under your text. Offset it more, change the direction of it, blur it out, make it more or less transparent. And there are a ton of other effects for you to choose from with text. Let's see, what else can I add? Or I want to fix this. If you double click images or the inside frames, it'll let you fix the crop on them. Does anybody have any questions about creating your own image? I see some stuff in the chat. Let's see. Thinking about creating a website. So I wouldn't recommend our templates for that. I would recommend our templates for, social media posts. If you need some help creating some graphics for a website, it's really about figuring out, if it's a drag and drop web builder, what the size it needs to be, and then we can help you put some stuff together for that. But our templates are best for social media posts and things like that. And then, like I mentioned before, you just click download it as a PNG. If you're doing a flyer or something, you might want to download that as a PDF. And we also have templates for that as well. So if anybody has any final questions about creating your own graphics in Canva, throw them in the chat and I will answer them. But if nobody has anything else, and I'm happy, like I said, to answer anything offline too, I'll talk a little bit about posting graphics. So I'm going to stop my share. And I'm actually going to talk about posting graphics on your phone because a lot of folks use their phones. Let's see, is Canva a paid? No, they have a free option. Canva does have paid. You can pay to use Canva, but it just gives you access to like certain other fonts and certain other little sticker graphics and stuff like that. So you can use it free, and I would recommend it free. All right, so I'm going to share my phone screen actually, and show you how you can post on Instagram and how you add alt text and everything like that. So all right, you should be able to see my phone. We're looking at the Mass Dems Instagram page. What I'm going to do is see this little plus button in the top right-hand corner. I'm going to click that. It opens up a menu, and I will click post. And so what I can do is click the image that I want to post, and just, I'll be prompted to click next, and then it brings me to this screen. I can write my caption in here. What I like to do is include my image description in the caption. So what I'll do is I usually click I type the caption in and then click a couple of put a bracket, image, and then you're going to describe your image inside the caption. So that's one way to do that. Then if you go to the very, very, very bottom, you'll see advanced settings in gray with an arrow. If you click that, you can actually add alt text as well. So you click write alt text, you type your alt text in there, hit done, and then go back to your main page, and then you share. And that's how you post on Instagram. You can also add captions on Instagram. So Instagram is one of the platforms that does auto captioning. So I'm going to discard that draft, and I'm going to find our welcome video. So this was our welcome video for caucuses. It's just going to take a second to upload. Sorry, really my Wi-Fi is not very good today. So then you hit next, just like when you were posting a video, gives you the opportunity to put filters on. I'm not going to do that, but you can also trim if you wanted to make it shorter or longer down here. So then it brings you to a very similar screen to the one that we just had. You are going to go again to advanced settings, and then you can toggle this button right here to show auto-generated captions, which is a great feature, and it will usually be automatically turned on. This video already has captions that I've put on, so we wouldn't need to do that, but if you don't have the ability to edit captions onto your videos, this is a great option. All right, so that is Instagram. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second, and then I'm going to open Facebook, and we're going to go through that. All right, so now we're looking at the MassDem's Facebook page, and this is what it looks like if you have a page or if you have a business page. So yours might look a little bit different, but just like you would if you're in your browser, or very similar to how kind of Instagram and all of our other platforms work, you'll click inside this box here. So what's on your mind? Open that up, hit photo, video. You have a lot of you can pick, what you want to put in there. So let's say I'm going to do this one. Open that up. You can type in your caption, hit, this. I do the same thing on Facebook that I do on Instagram with an image description. And to add alt text on Facebook, these little dots that you have up in the corner of the image, you click those and it brings up another menu. And then right at the bottom, you'll see edit alt text. And then you can put your alt text right in here. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to exit out of this, discard post, and you'll see, so here's our post for this training. You'll see if I click see more, you'll see our image description right in there. It's also got the alt text. So that way, if you're using a screen reader, it also reads it to you. But it's in the image description for folks who might have trouble reading the image and might not have a screen reader, or for folks who have, an unstable, I guess like me, internet connection and things aren't loading. So that is how you do that on that's on the phone. I'll talk a little bit about adding all of that from your browser as well in just a second. But before we do that, I am going to open Twitter and show you how to do the same thing. So we're looking at the MassDem's Twitter page now. And as you can see, we can't add image descriptions on Twitter just because, the character limit doesn't accommodate for that. But you do have the ability to add alt text. So you'll hit the plus button at the bottom, opens up your images. We'll click our image that we want to put, and then you'll see alt text down the bottom of the image, plus alt. Open that up, you can type in your alt text and you just describe the image. And then you can post. So it really is as simple as that. I am going to open up the same platforms in my browser and show you some other tricks that you can use to add alt text and image descriptions and caption your videos. So I'm going to stop sharing my phone screen. And I'm going to start sharing my browser screen again. All right, so now you can see our Twitter page up on the computer. It's very, very similar to the phone. You hit this blue tweet button, opens up window. You can click the little image and it brings up your options. So again, I'll open it up, open up a picture, and you just hit add description at the very bottom. So it's very similar. So I'm going to discard that. This is our Facebook page, again, in the browser, very, very similar to the phone. Create a post, add photo or video. You can add the graphic. Type in your post, and then to add a alt text here, you're going to click edit and then alt text, and it gives you a recommendation. Usually these aren't very good, but you can type in your own custom alt text as well. So if you have, we're going to talk about a little bit about videos now for folks that are interested in captioning. What you can do is upload on Facebook is upload a video. So I'm going to again upload our caucus welcome video. And it might take just a second to upload. But the great thing about Facebook is that you can use their captioning tools to download those captions and post them in other places like Twitter, because Twitter doesn't have its own, it has auto captions, but it doesn't have something where you can edit them. And we want to make sure that the information communicated in the captions is correct if we have that ability. So this is still uploading. I have uploaded one here already. And this is open in the Creator Studio, and everybody who has administrative access to a Facebook page has access to the Creator Studio. And usually once it finishes uploading, an option will just pop up for you to open and edit it in the Creator Studio. So you can click captions and subtitles. It's auto generating these captions. And it'll give you the ability to review them once it's done. You can make your changes to them. Say if, this is Massachusetts, we all know that Facebook's not hearing Gloucester correctly. So you can make those changes to the way things are spelled, to capitalization. So you hit review, brings them up, and see it automatically has all of that loaded into Facebook already because it heard it and it transcribed it for you. So you make your changes, you hit save, it'll save them. And then if you scroll to the very, very bottom of the screen, let's see. Oh, sorry, it's not at the very bottom of the screen. It's these three dots right here. On the side of edit, you can download them as what we call an SRT file, and that's just a caption file. So then if you go back to Twitter, this is the fun thing. You upload your video to Twitter, and it gives you the option to upload a caption file. And you can go ahead, upload your caption file. And now you've got custom captions on your Twitter video instead of the auto captions that Twitter does for you. And so they're all correct. You want to make sure all that information is, easily accessible to folks that might not be listening audio or might not be able to hear the audio. But I do think that's a great option for captioning, which is very, very important, not just for people who, can't hear the audio, but a large percentage of the population watches all videos with the sound off. So you're still able to convey the same information to all of them. So that is the end of the training. I know that was a lot to digest. We talked, about best practices. We talked about Canva, how to use Canva. We talked about accessibility, and then we went through all of that with captions and alt text and everything like that. So that was a lot. And if anyone has any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat. I see a couple in here now. Do you recommend Business Suite linking Facebook to an Instagram account? Yes, I find it very helpful. I'm actually going to turn my video on now because I think we should be good. I find it very helpful because it is my job to post across platforms. I find it really helpful to be able to schedule things out. So if you can, I definitely recommend linking your Instagram account through Facebook's Business Suite, or I think it's the Meta Business Suite now because they are a slightly different company, or that's their parent company. But yes. Any other questions? And this entire thing has been recorded so we can share it. And I'm happy to do like a one-on-one training with folks if they would like. All right, I think we're good then. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. This was a pretty long training too, so thanks for sticking with me. Like I said, don't hesitate to reach out with questions. I'll actually throw my information on the screen. You can get in touch with me at allison@massdems.org. And I would love to be able to walk stuff one-on-one, so that way we can get some great content up for our Blueprint teams and our town committees. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at Allie Mitchell on all platforms. And I hope that you'll stick with Blueprint to 22, get some great service events on the board, because it is really important work that we're all doing here, kind of organizing through giving back to our communities through Blueprint. So thanks so much for joining. I'm going to close out the training, but if you have any other questions, like I said, don't hesitate to reach out. Have a good night.
Night.